Sony A7 III full frame mirrorless camera. What a camera this is. So I've had this camera now coming on 12 months, and I thought it was a good idea to revisit some of the images that I've taken, but also let you know my thoughts after 12 months of ownership, what I found good, what I found bad. Spoiler alert, there's a lot of good. When I first got this camera, it absolutely blew my mind as to how I was able to change the way I work. Now, I'm predominantly a wedding photographer and I do commercial work, but generally it's for weddings, and I needed something quick and fast. Coming from the Canon system, you just get used to a way of working. When I went over to Sony, it was unreal. Little things, going over to a mirrorless, just being able to see the image before you actually take the shot as to how the exposure is. It sounds simple now, but when I started using it, it was such a new experience for me, just to be looking at the screen or looking through the viewfinder and saying, oh no, the exposure's not right. You can quickly change it, and it stops with what's known as chimping, where you take a picture, stop, look at it, yeah, that's okay, and you carry on, or it's not, and you take the shot again. So it got rid of a lot of errors out of the way that I shot, really. The other thing with this camera is the focusing system. The eye autofocus is a revelation, and it's just wonderful to use. The amount of shots that used to be out of focus, now I was pretty good, and it wouldn't be that many, but there was always some. You'd walk away thinking that was a great shot, you'd get it back in the Lightroom editing suite and realise, oh, okay, it's not that great, or it wasn't quite as sharp as you had hoped. That was just done away with when I went over to Sony. You didn't have any issues with focus. I'd probably say at least 96-97% of the shots are in focus, depending on what lens you're using. Some of the better lenses react quicker and get more in focus. You might have the odd one out of focus on a budget lens, but it's still better than the Canon system. I've got a review coming out very soon of the little 50mm 1.8, and I was put off buying that from a very quick little go. Didn't blow me away compared to the 55 by Zeiss. It's a much more expensive lens, but thinking back to the Canon system and what I came from before, this is still light years ahead of what results I was getting with my old Canon system, especially the nifty 50 on that system and many other budget lenses that you could get. So I want to quickly talk about how this is held up. Now, I've got two of these cameras. After a month of owning, I think this one, or the one that's recording me right now, I realised straight away that I wanted two bodies. I've always shot with two bodies, and I bought another one. So both these cameras are about the same age. I don't really do much videography with them. I'm still on Panasonic system for 4K slow now. I use the GH5, and I'm happy with that. But photography, I only use these. 12 months in, even though I've shared the load between two camera bodies, they generally both come out for the weddings, and no issues whatsoever. No lockups, no fails, no issues writing to cards or anything like that. It's been wonderful. It's been an absolute pleasure. Nothing's falling off. I will say I do sometimes play around with the sort of rubber suction cup that you get around the eyepiece there, and I'm always fiddling with it, and I did lose one, but I think that's more of me fiddling with it. It didn't just pop off. Not really had any overheating issues, but again, I don't do much video work with them, and this really is just a photographer's viewpoint. The flip out screen is lovely if you want to get a nice shot, get it low to the ground without having to lie on the ground anymore to get that low shot, and obviously tilting it down so you can get some high looking down shots, and you can just see what you're doing, but you also know it's going to hit focus, which again, it's just superb. Now, with the way the sensor is on these cameras and the way it works, you do sometimes get what's called banding, which the colours, you'll get lines through your image where it looks like someone's put like a faint dark line through the image, several lines, and that comes down to what shutter speed you're using. It's just a slight limitation of the mirrorless system with these sensors and the way the software is. I know you get less of it if you go with the Sony A9, but cost wise, and if that was the only thing I had to worry about, I actually managed to find quite a good workaround. If you are in low light, it's the only time you really see it is when you're indoors, and if there's different color lighting all around, you might get the banding. You won't notice it until you take the shot, but if you take several shots in a row, you'll notice these banding lines in the image. Quite frustrating, and when I first realized it was happening, I did not know how to fix it. My pro tip for everybody, if you do have this issue, is put your shutter speed down to 100. If you're using a lens with optical stabilization plus what you get optical stabilization with the sensor, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Keep a steady hand, shoot it 1/100, shouldn't have any issues then with the banding. Obviously you might have to pump the ISO up a little bit, but that's my pro tip and it does work. The other thing with the Sony cameras that I wasn't able to do anything like this on my Canon system is high-speed sync. So using them with the Godox flash, you may or may not have seen my other videos about the Godox system and my other lens reviews. Love doing a bit of off-camera flash, a nice softbox. I can really get the sky to pop and bring out the detail, which you couldn't do until much later in the day because you didn't have high-speed sync. You couldn't put your shutter speed up past sort of 1/200th, I think, and it was a bit of an issue to try and get anything unless it was a nighttime shot, and that's fine, and I developed my style in that way. Now I can go out, and if it's not super bright hot sun, I can actually go out in the middle of the day, take a big softbox and light the couple and bring out the detail in the sky, and that's, as you can see from these images here, it's a lovely thing to be able to do. It's just unique, and until the Sony system came along, until high-speed sync came along, it just wasn't something I was capable of doing. It just makes for a massive difference in the type of images you can take, and I absolutely love it. The other thing that's great about these cameras is the price. Because I think they made so many and it was so popular, they were able to bring the cost of production down on these. When I bought these, I bought them when they were new and the recommended retail price was $2,000 or $19.90. Since then, in I think 6 months after that, and for the last 6 months, you can actually get them for under $1,400. That's pounds and dollars. They're just an absolute bargain of a camera for the level of tech and spec that you're getting in these. Absolute bargain. The other thing, of course, with these is weight. Now, the mirrorless system, they are a much lighter, smaller camera. The DSLR system with its big fat lenses was an issue. It was something that would sort of ache and you wouldn't want to carry them around all day, which is something that bothered me because I wanted all my gear with me at all times. Now that's not something you can always do, but I like to have that option. Going over to Sony now, I will have say a 28 and a 55 or a 28 and an 85, or I've even got the what was filming me now, the Tamron 28 to 70 at close hand, and it's just lovely to have them all there. They're really light lenses, the bodies are really light, they're just superb. Battery life on these are really good. Now because I use two cameras, one original battery actually lasts me all day. That's a battery in each camera. One of the cameras is probably favoured more than the others just because of the lens I might have on it at the time, but a full battery will last me a full day. If I was using one camera and swapping lenses, I'd imagine I'd need two, but even though that's not really an issue, I always needed two with the Canons. I used to have the battery grip with two batteries in there, so again, not a problem with these. So from a photographer's viewpoint, what else would I want from this system? Nothing really. There are other cameras out there. If there's a few things I needed for gear that could respond quicker, I'd be looking at the A9. If I wanted more megapixels, I'd look at the A7R4. But for general wedding photography, this does everything I need. As I say, my only real negative is the banding, which can be a problem at times. You don't want to bring out the flash and you're doing speeches or something like that, and that's when you generally notice it. Maybe on a winter wedding, if you're doing a civil ceremony and the room's quite dark, they've got different colour bulbs, but that's my only gripe, is that little slight banding you can get, and I know how to work around that. If that's the only negative on these cameras, then I think we're onto a winner. They're absolutely wonderful. I can't see what an A7 IV is going to look like or what it's going to do. Maybe a slightly different grip, or maybe they can fix the banding issue, but that technology is in the A9, and this, for the money, I don't think you can complain. I think, hands down, this is the best camera around at the moment. I have had a play with the new Panasonic, the new Canon, and the new Nikon mirrorless cameras. They are good, but they are more expensive, and this was just light years ahead. This had everything last year that the other manufacturers are still trying to catch up on, and I just think that they've managed to put a massive dent obviously into the sales of the other camera manufacturers, and I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. The other thing with all cameras is what lenses are available, and third-party manufacturers are now really starting to get behind the Sony system. There's new lenses from Tamron and Sigma being announced only just the last week. We've got new budget offerings like the Viltrox. This will be a review coming up next week, which this is an 85mm. My very early initial testing have found this to be as good as the Sony 85mm 1.8. but that's £300 and that's £600. So it's crazy that the pricing of these lenses are going to keep coming down. Third-party manufacturers are going to get behind them. I love the Tamron, and they've got their new wide-angle one coming out at the moment, the 17-28 wide-angle zoom lens, and it's going to be quite a big deal. I think there's going to be a lot of new lenses coming out throughout the rest of this year, and it's going to keep me having fun, keep me excited. One thing on my shopping list is the 135 1.8 G Master lens. I'm really keen to get that because I love shooting with primes, and I'm not really looking to get the 70-200 2.8, which is also a very expensive lens. But it wouldn't surprise me if you find that there's going to be a new Tamron 135, or even someone like a Viltrox, or someone that's going to produce a much more budget-friendly option. Then I'm very, very interested in that. So the future's looking very bright for the Sony system, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So 12 months on, am I happy? Of course I'm happy. This thing's absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad that I bought it. I'm someone that is always looking at what next bit of tech is coming out, and what should I get next, and I can't help myself. That's just, I imagine you're the same. It's just the way we are, especially with camera gear. But I'm not looking to change this system at all. There's other lenses I'm interested in. The cinema gear that I've got I might have a look and have a play with, but for photography I'm sticking with the Sony. Absolutely love it, and I just cannot wait to see what I'm going to do with the rest of this year. So if you are thinking about buying this camera, just do it. If you're coming from a DSLR, it will blow your mind. You will absolutely love it. So yeah, 2 thumbs up from me. Absolutely endorse this camera. Hoping to have some real good fun over the next few months now with what I can do this summer. It's going to be a great year. I'm going to leave you with a few more images that I captured this year with it, just to show off what I can do with it, and so you can see the actual potential in this camera. Some with flash, some without, some are just some general portrait shots, and they're absolutely beautiful. Thanks again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this in some way. Please don't forget to give a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the bell notifications so you'll be kept informed of our future videos. Lots more coming from us with video and photography work. But until then, I will catch you in the next one.